From the development of the turbine plane to the production of fast and sleek jets. Throughout the early 20th century, the American military made effective use of advances in propulsion technology in its mission to achieve air superiority in World War I and World War II. In 1942, the United States Army Air Force created a turning point in aviation history by partnering with civilian aviation companies to create the first American military jet aircraft. The development and deployment of the first American jet engine used in military service enabled the United States to maintain air superiority in the Korean War. Throughout the late 20th century and into the 21st century, jet engine aircraft dominated air warfare and led to the development of commercial aviation, supersonic, and spy aircraft, and the creation of faster and stronger jets. Throughout the early 20th century, the American military made effective use of advances in propulsion technology in its mission to achieve air superiority in World War I and World War II. On December 17, 1903, in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, Orville and Wilbur Wright successfully flew the first turbine engine-powered aircraft in American history. This achievement was the start of the age of flight. The Wright brothers introduced new technology such as wind tunnel testing and helped progress and improve aeronautical engineering. In World War I, airplanes were just starting to be used for military applications. They were usually used for reconnaissance missions to investigate the actions of enemy forces and prepare offensive or defensive actions. After many failures, aeronautical engineers gradually improved the design of turbine engines, leading to planes such as the DH-4 Liberty, the only American-made aircraft to be flown in combat by World War I crew members. In World War II, the aircraft included a shift in manufacturing from wood and fabric planes to metal frames. Other improvements in turbine engine planes included more powerful engines, pressurized cabins, and protected pilots at higher altitudes. The changes to weaponry in World War II introduced a variety of new turbine engine bombers, cargo planes, and fighter planes such as the famous Boeing B-29 bomber, P-15 Mustang, and Douglas DC-3. World War II also brought the development of the first gas turbine, or jet engine. Independently of one another, both the British and Germans developed turbojet engines during World War II. Although the British were the first to begin work on a jet engine it was the Germans who flew the world's first jet aircraft, the Heinkel He-178, on August 27, 1939. In fact, the Germans flew a second jet aircraft, the Heinkel He-280, before a British jet. The Gloucester E-28/39 made its maiden flight in spring 1941. In 1939, German jet engine developer Dr. Hans von Ohain made the first flight-safe turbojet engine in partnership with the German aircraft company, Heinkel Aircrafts. Von Ohain's design led to the first flight of a jet engine-powered aircraft on August 27, 1939, the He-178. The Germans were also the first to send jet aircrafts into combat with the Messerschmitt Me-262 on July 18, 1942. However, due to a shortage of reliable jet engines, they were slow in manufacturing jet aircrafts during the war. Independently and in parallel with the Germans, Air Commodore Sir Frank Whittle of the Royal Air Force invented and patented a jet engine in England as early as 1930, but did not have a working prototype until the British Gloucester Meter E-28/39 made its maiden voyage in 1941. Meanwhile, the British continued to make new jets using Whittle's designs and used Rolls-Royce to make the Nini engine, which they sold in the Soviet Union. Ultimately, the design helped power the famous Soviet fighter, the MiG-15, which became the challenger to U.S. planes in Korean War. One of the early flights of the British Gloucester jet was observed by Major General Hap Arnold, Chief of the United States Army Air Force. After returning to the U.S., he guided the development of the first American jet. On October 1, 1942, the United States Army Air Force created a turning point in aviation history by partnering with Bell Aircraft to create the XP-59A. Bell fighter aircraft, based on General Electric's J-31 engine. Although the XP-59A had numerous design flaws and made it unsuitable for fighter jets, the partnership between civilian aviation companies and the United States military in the development of the jet engine technology laid the groundwork for future of American aerospace industries. And it was this partnership which allowed the U.S. military to explore jet engine development in many directions simultaneously.
We'll buy into 5, 8, 10 firms, and if 2 or 3 of them succeed, they make money. And if the other ones fail, life is hard. So this is the strategy that they undertook, a profusion strategy, many different kinds of projects, ultimately hoping that the best of them would surface and would become successful and give us real advantages in the military competition of the Cold War.
America's first jet engine, the P-59 Bell, used a General Electric's J-31 engine and flew at a speed about 409 miles per hour and reached the altitude of 35,000 feet. The aircraft was mounted to a 37mm M4 cannon and 3 50 cal machine guns. Unfortunately, it soon became obvious the XP-59A was unsuitable for its intended role as a fighter. The plane was slow and the controls had a tendency to freeze at high speeds, and pilots reported that rearward vision was very poor in the cockpit. Happily, due to the USAAF's profusion strategy of jet engine development, the other American companies such as Lockheed Martin were already working on solutions to fix that problem. Achieving air superiority during the Korean War. The development and deployment of the first American jet engine used in military service enabled the United States to maintain air superiority in the Korean War against Russian MiG aircrafts. One of the first American jets to see jet-to-jet air combat was the American F-80. However, the Russian competitor, the MiG-15, had the edge against the F-80 in speed and altitude. Because of the F-80's deficiencies, the American military created the F-86 to eventually match the MiG-15. Even though the MiG-15 was faster and could go at higher altitudes, the frame of the MiG-15 aircraft could not handle hard bank turns, or couldn't go higher altitudes because the windscreen would freeze over. In addition, better trained American pilots evened the playing field between US and Soviet air forces. Throughout the Korean War, the U.S. military continued to develop faster, more efficient aircrafts, including the F-94, which had advanced radar systems and an afterburner, and the B-45, which was developed for high-altitude bombing and dangerous night missions over North Korea. At the end of the Korean War, America's air superiority was clearly established over the Russian MiG-15 by an 8-to-1 kill ratio. Throughout the 20th century and into the 21st century, jet engine aircraft dominated air warfare and led to the development of commercial aviation, supersonic and spy aircrafts, and the creation of faster and stronger jets. Through the civilian and military partnership, jet engine revolutionized and globalized the civilian air travel industry, turning previous journeys of weeks into journeys of hours. Through their power and durability, jet engines enabled aircraft manufacturers to build bigger, faster, and more productive airlines. Jet technology also enabled airlines to reduce their operating costs and their airfares. Passenger service began in the United States in the late 1950s with the introduction of the Boeing 707 and Douglas DC-8 airlines. However, even as civilian aircraft embraced the jet engine, the U.S. military continued to make advances based on the same technology. The Douglas A-4 Skyhawk was one of the most important fighter aircraft used in the early Vietnam War by the U.S. Marines and Navy. This single-seat subsonic jet fighter and bomber entered service in 1956 and remained in production until 1979, and continued in military service with the U.S. Navy until 2003. Serving as one of the primary aircrafts deployed during the Vietnam War. Throughout the Cold War, many improvements were needed for the jet aircraft to successfully combat the spy on Russia. Many of these major technological developments were put into spy technology, such as the U-2 and the SR-71 Blackbird. The first U.S. spy aircraft in the Cold War was the U-2 in 1955, created in secret by Kelly Johnson and the Lockheed Skunk Works. It reached top speed of 410 miles per hour and a range of 7,000 miles. Another spy jet aircraft was the SR-71 Blackbird and began development in 1959 and entered service in 1966. The Blackbird was used for reconnaissance missions and was able to monitor 96,000 square miles of land in 1 hour. Most recently, the U.S. continued to maintain air superiority through the now famous F-16 fighter, which collectively flew more than 13,000 story strikes against Iraq during Operation Desert Storm in 1991, most of any coalition aircraft. From the launch of the first military jet engine in 1941 to the adoption of the jet in civilian air travel, the jet engine has revolutionized both military warfare and civilian travel, creating a strong military-industrial partnership while connecting people and places across the globe in record time.